Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here on this second day of this Introduction to the Three Principles program, organized by the 3PGC with the help and collaboration and inspiration of the Ukrainian-speaking and the Russian-speaking international communities, sister organizations of the 3PGC. Today we have with us the unique Natasha Swerdlov to start the day with us, to kick off the session with us. And I will say a little bit about her. So when Natasha discovered the work of Sydney Banks in 2012, she experienced a transformation on all areas of her life, and then decided to change the focus of her business to share the three principles with as many people as she could reach. She founded the Three Principles Institute, co-authored the book Coming Home with Dr. Dicken Bettinger, and then started the Three Principles School. Natasha believes that one of the greatest discoveries a person can make is that peace and happiness cannot be given or taken away by external circumstances. Today, Natasha is honored to serve on the board as 3PGC as president. And in that capacity, she is committed to support communities around the world. She is passionate about the vision of bringing the understanding of the three principles to people, to help relieve unnecessary suffering and create a more peaceful world. She lives in Denmark, is happily married to John since 2011, and is a trained psychotherapist. She has been self-employed since 1996, specializing in coaching, communication, and consulting in corporate settings in Denmark and around the world. Welcome, Natasha.
Thank you, Marina. And thank you for inviting me for this. It's always a joy to share with you and everyone. And thank you for all of you who have come here today. I wanted to start by saying that we are all moved by an impersonal force. It guides us, it moves us into action. It guides us through the personal. The force or the power itself is impersonal, but it pulls us, it moves us in our personal lives. This force has been called many things. Some call it nature force, some call it wisdom. We will use the word wisdom today. But I wanted to stay a little bit with this guiding force that we're all part of, because it has some qualities. This incredible force is what creates everything. It has a creative power in it. It creates through our personal thinking. So it uses our thinking through the power of thought. That's one element. Another element to this amazing, incredible force is that it's conscious. Even right now, you can ask yourself, are you aware? Check in with yourself. Am I aware? And notice for a moment what that does. You have to look within to answer that question. I'll come back to that in a moment, this looking within. The third part about this nature force is that it's intelligent. It moves everything in nature. It guides I live here in Denmark, and it's so interesting to see when wintertime starts, it guides the birds to leave and it guides them back again. How do they know which pond to land in? How do they know where to go? It guides the trees, it guides the plants. It's not quite spring here yet, although it is March 1st, but I love how I can see little buds coming up, little green buds coming out of the ground already. How does it know to do that? So a way that we speak about the three principles is that it is three different ways of describing that which creates. It's simply a description, or we're trying to point towards something that really is one power, but it has we can talk about it in three different ways. We're only always talking about the same. I loved yesterday when Marina was speaking about what is a principle. And she said it's kind of like gravity. It works for everyone on this planet. It's always the same. It has one direction. And so if I grab a pen and I let go of it, you all know what's going to happen. Now, notice one thing about a principle, the principle of gravity in this case, is that the principle itself doesn't care if I am a man or a woman, if I am young or old, if I am smart or not so smart, if I'm rich or poor. It doesn't have any interest in that. It just does what it does. It's just a principle. So these principles are the same for all of us. They simply work in the same way. We work in the same way. So just coming back for a moment to this impersonal power that moves us, that guides us. So it's intelligent, it's aware, and it's creative. Let me go into the three principles a little more deeply, and then I'll come back to the wisdom part. The power of thought is the power that makes it possible for us to think anything. So the way this power, which is formless, which is not personal, the way it comes into our personal minds will then become our personal thinking. If you imagine a white light coming through a beautiful diamond, the white light will then spread out and become all kinds of colors. We are those colors, and we have different colors because each of our diamonds has different facets. We've grown up different places in the world. We've had different kinds of parents, different kinds of upbringing. The light of creation, this impersonal light, will then reflect all the colors into our personal lives. In a way, it's imagine that you had all the colors in the world available to you and you were a painter. That's like you would then paint the way you paint, and no painters are the same. When you go to a museum, it's amazing to see how many expressions of creativity there is. Yet the paint is the same. There's all these different colors, but then it comes through in a unique way for us. It's the same with the power of thought. The power itself is just like a white light. Not that it is a light, it's just a metaphor I'm using. But then it comes in through our personal mind and creates all kinds of thoughts, depending on who we are and what we've been through. And so it's an incredible, it's the potential to think anything, from the most beautiful thoughts a person could ever have to the most horrible. It really makes a difference to see that it comes from impersonal power. It comes from this light. If I think that it is me creating my own thinking, I can then be angry with myself because I'm creating my own suffering and I'm creating my own unhappiness, and now I'm depressed. And so it makes a difference to people when they start seeing, oh, there's this power, and the way I'm using this power paints a different picture. It's the way we use this impersonal power of thought that creates the images that become our reality. So we're using a paintbrush, each and every one of us, to create our own reality. That's good news. And we'll come back to that. The principle of consciousness, again, it's an impersonal power. It has no preference of what you become aware of. So I might use the power of consciousness right now to become aware of the beautiful sweater that Marina is wearing and how well it suits her. Right? I get to choose that. That is what I become aware of. I can, in this moment, even though I'm sitting here with all these beautiful people, I can sit and I can suddenly become aware of my thinking of what's happening in the world and all the things that seem scary to me. So again, I'm using the power of consciousness to become aware of whatever I want. I become aware of my thinking. Again, that's a choice. I can become aware of it. It's not a choice if I don't know I'm doing it. So again, it makes a difference to us when we understand that we are the creators of our own experience via these three principles. So when I ask the question, are you aware? You kind of have to go, am I aware? Yeah, I'm listening. I can see. Consciousness uses our five senses to create the reality we're in. It uses the sense of time, space, and matter to get a sense that we're living in a three-dimensional world. So whenever we have a thought and we believe that it's true, it will, through our senses, give us an experience of not the reality, but of our thought-created reality. It brings it to life and you feel it immediately in your body. So this power is incredibly powerful. The last principle that I'll speak about for now is the principle of mind. And when we talk about the principle of mind, we don't mean our own personal little mind, but again, this power that through our small minds become whatever it is that we are thinking, believing, experiencing. It's a beautiful, beautiful, impersonal mind that is the intelligence behind the entire universe. Now, why is it helpful to know about that we are being lived by this mind, by this intelligence? Because it guides us. Because it constantly is helping us, nudging us through life. It doesn't always take us in directions that we would have chosen. It doesn't really care what our ambitions are, what our fears are, it guides us in ways that we can't always see. Have you ever had the experience that after something that was difficult has happened, maybe a week later or a month later or a year later, you look back and you go, oh, now I see. Now I see why I went through that experience. So the three principles are simply three different ways of talking about one principle, which is out of nothing, everything arises. Another way of saying that is creation is happening all the time. Creation itself does not judge or command that you use the principles in any specific way. That is the choices that are given to us as humans. We can use the power of thought any way we want. We can think about whatever we want. We can become aware of anything we want. We can live any way we want. So the power itself is formless. You can't see it. You can't touch it. Yet it guides everything. Every move we make, every choice we make, it guides everything. I love, there's an old Vedantic story about a father that sends his son is 12 years old, he sends him to school and he says, go and learn about the world, my boy. And so the boy goes to school for 12 years and he comes home and he's so full of knowledge. He knows about the stars, he knows about the plants, he knows many things. And then the father says, oh, I love that you know all these things. But did they tell you about the power that makes everything possible? Did they tell you about the invisible force that creates everything? Now, this is a story from the Vedantic tradition. It's 3,000 years old. And the boy says to his father, no, they didn't. Can you teach me? And so the father says, you see these two pots? They're both made of clay. They're two different pots. They have different colors. They have different shapes. And the boy says, yes, I see them. Well, they're both made of clay. So the substance or the essence of these two ceramics or shapes, the essence is the same, yet they have different shapes and forms and colors. But the essence is the same. We are the same. Our essence, every single one of us, is the same essence. We take different forms. We look different. We speak different languages. We have different interests and different preferences. So when we look to the world of form, we see a lot of differences. Now, when we start to look within, to our own essence, then we can get an experience of that which we all are. So when we talk about the three principles, all we're ever pointing to is our essence. We want you, and we're constantly looking towards ourselves to see deeper and deeper, who am I really? Where am I behind what looks like my appearances? Behind all the things that Marina beautifully read about me. That's just form, it's just labels. We're the same essence, all of us. So something deep and profound and transformational happens when we start looking towards our own essence. When we see, oh, we are one. And something incredibly powerful happens when we realize what it is that creates all of our experiences, all of them. There's no exceptions. So yesterday you heard all of the speakers, Linda, George, and Marina and Aaron, speak about a man named Sydney Banks, who had two life-changing insights. The first one that he realized was that we're living in a thought-created reality. We don't see the world the way it is. We see through the filter of our own personal thinking. We judge. We make meaning out of. We're using the power of thought in a certain way. He saw that very clearly. And I had never heard anyone speak that way when I came to this understanding in 2012. I'd always been very interested in psychology and in spirituality, but I'd never seen the bridge between them. So when I heard Sid talk, that's what I heard. There's a bridge. There's something that connects these two worlds that I thought were apart. I kind of had an intuition that they were the same, but on the other hand, I couldn't see what the bridge was until I started understanding or getting a sense of for myself this power of thought. It's the way we use it that creates our experiences. It's when we believe our own thinking that experience is created inside of us. So most of us grew up just learning about our intellect, our personal mind. I sometimes like to use the metaphor of skiing. Like you imagine that you're skiing down the hill. And imagine that you only learn to ski on one ski, the ski of the intellect. You have to get smart, and you have to get this, and you have to work this out, and you have to analyze, and you have to work hard. And of course, this leg gets really strong. It makes a deep track into the snow. It gets very fast. But over time, only using this ski is really tiring. You get exhausted. You get stressed because you're overheating, you're overusing this one leg. The other leg, you kind of intuit that it's there. It's like we all have this calling towards something that's greater than ourselves. You kind of intuit it, but you can't see it. It's not as obvious, and nobody told us about it. So it's kind of floating somewhere, and sometimes we'll sit down with a cup of tea and watch the sunset, and we kind of land into it, and it's like, oh, this is so good. And now you think I can only feel this way if I'm watching a sunset. Or I land there, I'm walking through the woods, and suddenly I'm just filled with this sense of wonder and beauty, joy. And you think it's because I'm walking through the woods. But what we're talking about, what we're pointing towards is this is who we are. This is the essence. This is the clay. This is who we all are. But we kind of cover it with our intellect. We let our personal thinking cover what we already are because no one told us. So we were told that you'll be happy when X, Y, and Z. When happiness is our true nature, it shines through all of experience. Like the sun is always shining behind the clouds, but we can't always see it because there's clouds. Now, here is why it's important, or it's transformational, to look in this direction. When we know, when we know that we're living in a thought-created reality, and that the nature of thought is it's something that comes and goes. Wow, that's huge. That means that whatever experience you're having right now, at some point it won't be there. You have not had a one experience in your entire life. Or I could say it another way. You've only had one thing that's been with you your entire life, which is I'm having an experience. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm sad. I'm happy. So the good news is when we see this power of thought in creating all of our experiences, and knowing that the nature of thought is that it's something that comes and goes, that's really helpful. So when I'm stuck personally in an experience that's not nice, I know that at some point it will lift. Linda and George spoke a lot about that yesterday. How that whenever an experience was there, they simply left it alone and went and did something else. I do pretty much the same. I know I'm stuck. I know I'm not feeling well right now. And I know at some point that will change. Here's the even better news, that when it changes, when my mind calms down, this intelligence behind the entire universe will come up with new thought, will come up with a new idea, will come with a solution that most of the time blows me away because I never would have thought it. Just today I was stuck with something this morning and I didn't know how to change it. I didn't know how to solve it. And then a solution came and I was like, whoa, hadn't seen that one coming. But here's the great thing. I know that this is possible. I know that the nature of experience is that it comes and it goes. And I know that as soon as the clouds that had covered the sun, as they lift, the sun will shine. Something new and fresh will come to me. A new idea will come to me. A new solution will come to me. And I will know what to do. I will be guided from within. Do you know that feeling of when you just know what to do? It's very different from the intellect that always goes, well, I could do this and that, and this is an option, there's many different things I could do. And then you kind of get confused because there's so many options. Notice the times in your life where you've just known what to do. Take this job or leave a job. Go into a relationship or leave a relationship. There's a knowing. And that knowing is the guide. That knowing is wisdom. And we can count on it because it's our essence. It's always here. So I just wanted to share with you a little bit about what are the three principles and why is it that it's helpful to know that this is how we are all made. This is what creates experiences for all of us, and that we are the same essence.
Thank you, Natasha. I would like to highlight a couple of the things that you said and then start from there, see where it takes us. The first one is you spoke about essence, about this being our essence. And I would like to point out the fact that this might not be always be obvious, but essence is inescapable. You cannot not have wisdom. You cannot not rely on this universal intelligence. You cannot pause it and make it stop operate. It is always there. It is always in your service. It is always working. It's just that we are not used to paying very much attention to it. We have been taught and trained to pay attention to the intellect. We have been taught that our value is in our acquired knowledge and our intellectual capacities. We have been taught to rely on that one leg, on that one ski. And yes, that one leg has gotten really strong. But the point is that the other leg does not depend on us using it to gain strength. It is the strength of the universe. It is the intelligence of the universe. So it will always be strong. It will always be stronger. It will always have more possibility than the other leg. The point is that being human, the way I understand it, is the dance between these two aspects. I don't see them as opposed. I see them a little bit as the foreground and the background. So this is always happening in the background. We are always aware, whether we know it or not. Thinking is always happening, whether we know it or not. And hence experience is being created, whether we are aware of it or not. Now, the background, which in this understanding we call the formless, that is the words that Sydney Banks chose to speak about it, the formless is pure potentiality. And that is the space in which we talk about principles. So we talk about the principle of thought, the fact of thought, the principle of consciousness, the fact of consciousness, the principle of mind, the fact of this intelligence that is operating the universe. Now, all this is happening in the background, but then as it comes through you, because it comes through you, then it comes into the form. And then we have an expression of a personal thought, a personal consciousness, and a personal mind. Now, those personal expressions are still part of the potentiality. They're just one expression of that potentiality. The expression that has become possible through you now in this moment. And so we have this dance between, oh, this is always happening, but this is the way it is being expressed through me right now. And when Natasha says, I'm not enjoying this experience, well, the gift is that we can always let go of this particular manifestation that is happening in this moment and go back to the formless and bring another possibility into being. Birth another possibility into the form through us. And because it is coming through us, it will be tainted by our uniqueness. It will come through us in a way that can only come through us. Now I am going to highlight the other highlight that I already mentioned. So I am going to highlight it in Natasha's speech and then what I shared as well. When I am not liking this expression, when I am not enjoying this expression, when the feeling is off, that is a sign that I am not being true to that potentiality. It is a sign that I am keeping that possibility way too small in this one expression. That the one possibility that I am choosing to see or manifest might not be useful or ideal to deal with the reality that I am facing right now. And it is an invitation to let go of that one possibility that I am manifesting, that I am bringing forward, and go back to the formless, because I am being told that there is a better possibility. And that if I go back to the formless, I will be informed of a better possibility. Is this making sense? Yes. Okay, so in a way, when I am not liking that feeling, when that feeling is not being comfortable, it's like the way my system is telling me, your vision is compromised. You are looking at it too personally. You are choosing judgment over understanding or over curiosity. You are focusing too much on this one thing. You are attaching yourself to this one thing. You have become identified with this one thing too much. And there are other possibilities that are more expansive, that are wider, that will allow for a more compassionate, I was going to say comfortable, and yes, comfortable, but also compassionate, more loving, more open possibility that is more aligned with truth, with the truth of that creative power. And so it is through that feeling, through those feelings, that life is teaching us what the best way to use our thinking is. Moment to moment to moment. And it changes all the time. And so there is always an invitation. If it feels nice and it feels expansive and it feels kind and it feels compassionate and it feels open, I know I am in the right direction. I know I am looking at least in the right direction, or I am initiating in the right come from. But if it doesn't, it is an invitation to let go of that one particular creation and go back to the formless for another possibility. And Sydney Banks was adamant on the fact that if you quieten your mind, so this is it. No, I let go of all this creation that is feeling uncomfortable, that is feeling off, and then my mind gets quiet. If you quiet your mind and you rest in a good feeling, wisdom must speak to you. He was adamant on that fact. It must happen. You will see another possibility. He did not say, you have to go out and look for it. You have to go out and look for and realize which the better creation would be and what the components of the ideal creation could be. No, you see, we have this unbelievably intelligent, wise force at our service in life. And it must guide us, because it cannot not guide us. We are its creations. We are its children. We are a manifestation of it. So it cannot not be there. It is inescapable. It is our essence. Someone was asking in the question yesterday. So it's all about finding a good feeling when I'm not in a good feeling and let it go of my thinking when I'm not in a good feeling and then waiting for a good feeling. That's it? Yeah, pretty much. That's it. Now, there was another question in the chat room yesterday that said, so that will get me what I want? Well, not necessarily. Because life is not designed to tend to your preferences. It is designed to tend to your evolution. It is designed to tend to your growth, to the expansion of your consciousness. So when we say it will guide you to your best possibility, we don't mean it will guide you to the best possibility in which you will make $3 million and have the Ferraris and have the house. And that's not necessarily your best possibility. Your best possibility is the reality in which you will feel happy, fulfilled, purposeful. I would even go as far as to say adequate, because for such a long time, if I felt inadequate in my life. And now I feel adequate somehow. And I feel happy and joyful and purposeful and in service. And I keep going back to a quote by Anthony de Mello that I love that says, enlightenment is absolute collaboration with the inevitable. And when you look at this quote carefully, you have to ask yourself, well, what is collaboration? What is inevitable? And what is absolute, right? Those are three important questions if you're going to consider that quote. And I remember having a conversation with Dr. Dicken Bettinger one afternoon that I was feeling particularly curious and a little bit restless. And I called him up and I asked him, so Dicken, I have a question for you. What is wisdom up to? I mean, if there is a guidance system, that means we're being guided in a direction. So where are we being guided towards? And it's not, if it's my best possibility, it must be the best possibility for everyone and everything else. You know, and we had a beautiful conversation. After that conversation, I stayed with that question for weeks, you know, asking, like, what is wisdom up to? And I started seeing, well, if there is a guidance system that is guiding us to our best possibility, then we are inevitably being guiding to the best possibility of the universe. And if we allow ourselves to be guided by that wisdom into our best possibility, then we are collaborating to the best possibility of the universe. We are collaborating with the inevitable. Because you cannot affect a part without affecting the whole. So if you assume the responsibility of surrendering that guidance and following that guidance to your best possibility, to the best possibility, you are changing not only your life, you are changing the world, you are changing the whole universe. As above, so below, as inside, so outside. And so you are actively and deliberately accepting the responsibility of making this world a better place. Just by committing to being happy and staying in a good feeling. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. About a year ago, I decided to make an experiment. I was going through a lot, and I decided to make an experiment and really take seriously, like very seriously, making my inner peace the priority, my mental peace, my priority. Radical commitment to inner peace. And what that brought forward was an acute awareness of just how much thinking I had to give up in order to keep my inner peace. Of just how many beliefs I had to surrender to keep my inner peace. Of how much I had to take responsibility for my state of being before and during every single conversation so that I could keep my inner peace. And at the beginning, it felt a little overwhelming because it was shocking, the amount of thoughts that I had to renounce and the amount of beliefs that I had to get rid of and the amount of responsibility of taking care of where I was coming from. But then it became really easy because that this is our essence. We are perfectly designed to work with it, aligned with our original design. And so the learning curve was really fast. Now, what this means is that, have you ever noticed how sometimes when someone is going through a lot and another wave comes and hits them, and another wave comes and hits them, and another wave comes and hits, and suddenly there is so much suffering that they end up saying, I give up. I'm going to put it in God's hands. I am surrendering. Have you noticed that? I've seen that a lot in hospitals and in rehab centers and things like that. You know, like there is so much suffering that people finally give up. And what happens when we finally give up, it's that we renounce that one way we are seeing things. We renounce our thinking around a situation. We renounce our beliefs about something. And then the system takes care of us and brings us back to a good feeling and brings us back to our natural state. And then miracles happen. You see this all the time. Well, what this radical commitment to inner peace ended up doing was that a lot of suffering was not necessary before I gave up. Just a tiny little bit of it was enough for me to give it up. And so instead of living a life like this, I started living a life like this. I was like, oh, this is stealing my peace of mind. I need to give it up. Oh, this is disturbing me. I need to give it up. Oh, I just need to see something fresh. There is another possibility that I am missing on. And if I quieten down, it must show up. It requires trust. It requires patience. It requires an enormous amount of compassion for yourself. Because you will get confused over and over again, like George and Linda were saying yesterday, like you will get caught up again. That's what being human is about. And when you first start exploring this understanding after a few months, you get really good at punishing yourself for not having seen it. Like, oh my God, I got lost again, but I should know better. I've been studying this for 4 months now. And how is it possible that I got lost again? And oh my God. After a while, you begin to develop that compassion for yourself. And with that, you begin to develop a lot of compassion for others as well. And then after a while, you realize that the fact that you are human and that you will get lost again is the most beautiful blessing of the design. Because it keeps you humble. Because it keeps you human. Because it keeps you at the level of your peers. You will never be better than anyone else at being human. And so it keeps you from getting judgmental. It keeps you from getting egotistical. It keeps you from believing, oh, now I am better than you and I am going to teach you. No. We are all students here. We are all playing this game between the formless and the form, and we are always getting it wrong, and we are always being invited back to. There's a beautiful sentence in A Course in Miracles that says, at any given moment in time, you are either in love or in a call to love. And a call to love is also love. So in reality, you are always in love. You cannot not be in love. It is your essence. It is the vital force, intelligent force of the universe. It has your back. It never leaves you. You're being taken care of. You're always being guided. And it's all in the feeling. Like I had a client once that told me, I am going to set up an alarm every 15 minutes in a day to remind me of how this works and remind me of, and it was like, well, that's completely unnecessary. Like anything you can think about, life already thought about for you, right? The alarm system is already built in you. Whenever you get lost, it hurts. That's the moment to remember. Our dear colleague, Wayne Morgan says, whenever I feel lost, there are two questions that I need to ask myself. The first one is, what am I making up? And the second one is, what have I forgotten? And they both point to the same thing, right? Oh, I got lost because I forgot. And it really is that simple. Now, when I speak about how this formless will come through you and inform you personally in the form, and then it will guide you personally to your best possibility. It's tailor-made for you. Another way of saying that is, do not pretend that wisdom will inform everybody the same way it informs you. And that helps you develop huge respect for the way other people are being informed, even if it doesn't make sense to you. That is especially useful for parents. You know, when your kids start making decisions that you say, oh my God. But you keep telling them, you know, you keep witnessing, well, they're doing it while they are in a really good state of mind, and they are calm, and they are at peace, and they are considering, and they are open, and if that is what makes sense to them in that state of mind, then they should trust it, and so should I. If they are not in a good state of mind, if I am not in a good state of mind, then it might not be such a good idea to trust what occurs to me or them in that moment. And so, like Natasha was saying, what we do with our paintbrush is completely different. What we do with our thinking is completely different. What that is in the form, but in the formless, we are all exactly the same. And I don't know if you've heard this rumor that has been going on for about 5,000 years or so, that, you know, the importance of knowing thyself. You know, it was in the Delphos Oracle, know thyself. To me, that is an invitation to know thyself, not in the form, because that is always changing, you know, and your story is your story, and the story changes, and da 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 da. But to really know thyself, know the nature of thyself, so that you can understand the power in you, the power that has been gifted to you to create your reality, to contribute to the creation of a shared reality with others. Know thyself so that you can understand how that works, and you can use it to the best of your advantage. Understand how it works so that you can harvest all its gifts, so that you can access all of your mental, psychological, emotional, spiritual resources, and put them to use in the world. Find your gifts and irrigate the world with them. Because if you're not irrigating the world with them, what a waste. Come on. You have been summoned into this life because for whatever reason, this universal intelligence thought that the way it could come through you was worth it, was meaningful, was needed. And here you are using your sacred, amazing, wonderful power of thought to doubt yourself and belittle yourself. And create insecurity for yourself. So I'll tell you what wisdom is up to. I'll tell you what wisdom is up to, Deacon. Deacon, wisdom is up to you. That's what it's up to. And the language it's using to communicate with you is feeling. So pay attention. Learn the language. Learn the language. Like that boy in Natasha's story. What are they teaching you in school? If it were up to me, I would make it mandatory in school. Teach people how to develop an intimate relationship with their inner wisdom. And God, would that change the world? Have you developed an intimate relationship with your inner wisdom? With your inner voice? Is there enough silence in your life for that? Do you listen to it often? Do you obey? Back to essence and back to why we talk about principles. Because they are inescapable, and that is what we are looking at. If you change your name, you would still be you. If you change your nationality, you would still be you. If you change your postal code, you would still be you. If you change your story, you will still be you. But there's another part that isn't changeable. The fact that you think, the fact that you are aware, and the fact that you are alive and infused with this wisdom. That is inescapable. And when we operate from the knowing of that truth and the understanding of that essence, then everything becomes possible. It's all in the feeling. It's as simple as that. There is nothing else you need to consider. Just the feeling. That's all. And you can trust that. Man, that was a long opening statement, Natasha. I'm sorry.
Oh, I loved it. I was listening, and it can sound so big. We're talking about powers and principles and the universe and being guided by wisdom. And I would love to just at the end of this session come down to how practical it is in our lives to know this. What we're talking about is super practical. Now, the first thing that I'd love to point out is that it's a very simple premise that we're actually speaking about here. The premise is that there's only just one thing that creates experience. Not really a thing, but a power that creates experience. Now, I don't know if you're like me, but I grew up, especially becoming a psychotherapist as I did, being trained in finding out why people were the way they were. This person is depressed. Well, let's look at their background. Let's look at their family history. Let's look at all of that. Or this person has anxiousness. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at that. And so I grew up, probably you guys did too, in a way that we were told that the reason why we're feeling the way we're feeling is X, Y, Z. There could be thousands of reasons why you're feeling what you're feeling when you believe that you're living from a world that comes from the outside and in. Oh, it's because it's dark. In my country, it's dark a lot of the year. And so there's a lot of depression in Denmark. And people, they say, well, it's because it's so dark. Really? Is it really? Or is it how you think about the dark? Oh, it's the traffic that's making you irritated. Really? Can cars do that to you? Oh, if you just have enough money, then you'll be happy. Really? Do you know people who are really wealthy and not very happy? I know wealthy people who are happy too, but if we start to question that, like, what is it that really creates? And so the premise we're talking about here is that everything is created from the power of thought. Everything. There's nothing that's not created from that. Now, this is very exciting. What happens to most people when they realize the truth of that is that all the other reasons why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, they fall away. Like if I thought that before I knew this understanding, whenever I was feeling something, I was having a bad experience, I would immediately go, why am I feeling this way? Is it my relationship gone bad? Is it the time of the month? Is it the stars? Is it my background? Is it my parents' upbringing of me? I would immediately ask the question, why? Do any of you do that when you feel bad? Do you go, why am I feeling this way? Now, what will happen with your mind as soon as you go, oh, thought? See, we're not asking you to find out which thought it is. It doesn't matter. It's thought. Do you notice what happens with your mind immediately when you start noticing that, oh, it's whatever I'm experiencing right now only comes from one place? If I thought that there could be 10,000 reasons why I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and now somebody tells me there's only one reason, well, then 9,999 possibilities fall away. My mind immediately goes more quiet. I still feel bad. That's okay. The experience can't harm me or hurt me. If I am this formless intelligence, there's no experience that can harm me, just like a movie doesn't harm the screen, no matter how violent that movie must be or might be. So that's huge. That's what a lot of people, that's the first insight they have around this understanding is, oh, it's coming from one place only. So immediately my mind gets more quiet. So I loved when Marina said, you know, do you have an intimate relationship with wisdom? Is your mind quiet enough? Well, one of the things that happens when we look in this direction is our minds do become more quiet, because we don't spend a lot of time analyzing why we're feeling what we're feeling. We know it. Now, the second thing that's incredibly practical is that we have this built-in system, like Marina was talking about. Like if you fall and you twist your ankle, is the pain that you're feeling when you walk a mistake? Of course not. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you did something horrible in a past life. It doesn't mean that the stars are aligned in a certain way. It doesn't mean all kinds of things. It means you've hurt your ankle. Don't walk on it until it's healed. So the pain is an alarm system. It's there to help you. But nobody told us that our feelings are the same. Nobody told us that your feelings is an alarm system. It's not telling you anything about the world. Nothing about the world. It's telling you something about how you're using your paintbrush. That's it. So if you're not feeling good, if you're having a bad experience, it's not saying something about the future or the past. It's saying something about how you are using thought in the moment. Nothing else. Isn't that fantastic news that we have an alarm clock inside? We have a guiding system. We could even call it biofeedback, because our body senses this. Our body reacts. Our body is letting us know. So, for instance, there's a lot of things going on in the world, and I know many people are really frightened, and I can get frightened very easily. If I, with my mind, try to imagine where we're going, I can go into horror stories. So now I'm feeling terrible. Is it because I'm suddenly clairvoyant and I know what's going to happen? No. It's because I'm having a movie play out on my internal screen, and it's a horror movie. And if I believe that that's going to happen, I will be very frightened. Right now, I can do that. I can also take some experiences from the past. And have you ever noticed that the past is gone? I mean, right now, let's check. Can you show me the past? Can you show it to me? Where does it exist? It exists as thought, doesn't it? We can't take one step back into the past. Nobody has. It's not possible. We're only ever living in this moment. Of course, I can right now tell you lots of things about my past, things that has happened in my past, but it would all be thought in the moment. All of it. It's incredibly liberating and incredibly freeing, especially when we work with people who've suffered terrible trauma. When they start to see that it's over. If it's not happening now, it's over. Can you show me the future? Has anyone gone into the future? No. Why? Because as soon as we're 5 minutes from now, we're still in the now. It doesn't exist. So there's something quite magical and transformational that happens when we realize that all that is ever going on is experience created in each moment via thought. And that the guiding system, the biofeedback system that we've all been given, that we're all born with, is not telling us that we know something about the future. It's telling us something about the quality of our thinking in this moment. If I believe something horrible is going to happen, that I will get cancer tomorrow, or my husband's going to leave me, or the Third World War is going to break out soon. If that's what's in my present reality right now, is that what I'm thinking, I will feel it. It's not a mistake. It's an invitation to let go, like Marina said. It's a call to love. It's a wake-up call to see, wait a minute, I'm sitting here in my office right now, and I can create this movie from this amazing power of thought. I have the paintbrush right here. I can create any movie I want. And when I do so, I will experience the movie I just created, not reality. So it's a simple premise. We are all living in the feeling of our thinking. We're living in a thought-created reality. And we have an inbuilt system that can help us navigate by feeling. So when I'm on this ski, the intellect ski, when I'm in my precious little tiny mind, there's most often a sense of tension. It can be excitement, that can be one kind of tension, and it can be fear, and all kinds of things in between, but there's often a kind of a tension there. When I rest as who I really am, there's a sense of ease, well-being, inspiration, motivation, love, compassion. It's not that when I rest in this essence that I am, it's not that life doesn't come at me. It does. All kinds of things happen. But notice that when we are calm, we are much more responsive in the moment. When I'm frightened of something that might happen, I scare myself, and I'm all stuck and all cramped with anticipation for this horrible talk I'm going to have with my boss next week, or this horrible talk I'm going to have with my neighbor. Or when I'm all like this, I'm not as able to hear wisdom. When I'm relaxed, when I go into situations, just resting, being open to what might occur, I'm responsive. And yeah, my boss might yell at me, or my neighbor might be angry with me, but I'm much more resilient in that moment because I haven't scared myself. Have you noticed how little of what you've ever been frightened of actually happened? If I look at all that I've been frightened of, almost none of it has happened. Has other stuff happened? Yeah, tons that I didn't see coming. And I've dealt with it in the moment, one by one. There's always a solution that comes up. But it doesn't come up from this thinking mind. It's a wonderful tool, and it's not away from. It's together with. And to be a good skier, you really do well when you use both, right? So the intellect's not the bad guy here. It's a beautiful tool when we use it wisely. And using it wisely, let me bring up a couple of examples that you might be able to relate to. Using it wisely is, I'm unhappy at my job. I don't know what to do. One day it occurs to me, oh, you could go to another department, or, oh, you could quit and do something different. Now, the feeling of that decision comes as this just knowing. It comes up as one. Oh, I know what to do now. As soon as you know what to do, the intellect is a beautiful servant. Okay, let's find out, where could you work, or what kind of qualifications might you want to get. Beautiful servant. But it's not a very good master, this intellect. Well, you could be doing this and you could be doing that, and and maybe you should and maybe you shouldn't. It's a lot of thought and it's a lot of confusion, and it usually doesn't feel good. Well, hooray for that. That it doesn't feel good doesn't mean that you should either stay at the place you're working or leave it. It simply means that the quality of your thinking about it right now is such that you feel bad. And as soon as it does, we have a choice. There's a calling. There's an invitation in that feeling. Let go. Just notice, oh, I'm not feeling very good right now. I'm thinking all these thoughts and I don't know what to do. Leave it. Come back to it. There's one thing that I want to point out about wisdom, which is wisdom doesn't work in the future. You can't say, well, I'm okay, happy with my job right now, but a year from now, please tell me what I have to do then. It doesn't work that way. It works now. So all you ever have to do is be in the present moment, and then you will know what the next step is. It's all you ever need to know. What is the next step? Does it mean I don't plan? No, I do plan. Planning a wonderful retreat with Marina and May. I'm planning lots of things and workshops and different things that I do. But I'm always guided in this moment. And because I am listening, I am responsive to wisdom, plans change. If something doesn't make sense anymore and something feels more right, then it feels more right. Sydney Banks was always saying, don't listen to my words, listen to the feeling. So I'm curious about what feeling you're in right now. I'm wondering what you're hearing in this.